you guys.
Oh, yes, same here. Thank you. It warms my heart that you're here too. Yes.
Thank you.
I
Yes,
have to
me.
say a few things about Morgan. Morgan is an energy healer. She
Ah,
uh, she can she can sense a person's affliction and ailment, and through the use of human and universal energy, she can transfer energy to their body and help them get better.
wow.
She's pretty powerful healer. She's has a sixth sense.
That's
You can
very
sense.
impressive.
You
Yes.
can you see people's aura, Morgan?
It depends.
Depends. Okay.
It depends.
Okay.
For somebody is easy.
Mhm,
Even my sense, tell me to try to help, but
mhm.
somebody I cannot, get any sense.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
I'll try my best, to be helpful.
Mhm,
First for myself, my
mhm.
family, my friends, and then, others.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And yeah, I totally see Morgan as a healers of the world. And I'm sure that with this knowledge and philosophy, it's going to expand your capability of helping other people. Okay, your capability, your talent,
Thank
your love
you.
for the people, you already have that within you as a seed. And I am grateful to have this opportunity to share this knowledge because we have people of great heart in the room. Okay.
Thank
Uh,
you. The same.
yes, and very honored by your presence. It is a little past 7 a.m. in the West Coast of the North America, the United States and Canada. Thank you for taking your time. Um, as a response to popular demand, Morgan's request, we are doing this 24-hour sharing in two parts. So today we will go 12 hours from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. with little breaks and lunch and in between whenever we need to. And then we'll do it again tomorrow to complete the 24 hours. Okay. This is the third
Thank
time that
you.
we go over that we do the 24-hour sharing. And for those of you who are reviewing this recording later, this is a part of a journey, a knowledge sharing and learning journey. Okay. Um, it is a journey okay, to elevate our inner awareness. Okay, it is a journey to elevate our inner awareness, awareness about ourselves, awareness about other people, awareness about human life and experience. Okay, why? What for? In order to create a life that is desirable, a life of health, happiness, and peace. Okay, for ourselves and for other people as well. Tradition, this journey or this course is shared in a 21-day session, each day maybe 2 or 3 hours long. And by the end of the 21-day knowledge, learning, sharing, each person is able to experience essentially new life, okay, new reality for themselves, and they can take it and share with other people in the families and the environment. It is a promise. Okay, it is a promise that if you follow this journey, and so this journey has a roadmap. Okay, if you follow the journey with a roadmap, you will experience some transformation. Okay, whether it could be in the areas of your health, in the areas of your relationship, or the areas of your financial well-being. Okay, that is a promise. So with that in mind, you can begin by writing down a few areas of life that you want to transform. Okay, that's your sort of active, and we're going to refer to those areas of life. You can literally write down, I want to transform my health. I want to transform my relationship with my spouse, my children, my coworker. I want to transform my ability to help other people, to heal other people. I'm working on my finance, etc., etc., etc. Write down maybe 4 or 5 things that you want to set the intention of transforming, improving, or create some new possibilities for yourself. Okay. And so this journey has a roadmap. It also has a step-by-step process that we go from very fundamental things to more advanced things. And as we take those steps, it is like peeling back the layer of the onion. Okay, imagine the onion has a lot of layers. We peel back each layer and we get closer and closer to the core of our being, find the truth of who we are. And from there, we can create new possibility for ourselves. Okay. And the best way to do that is just to enjoy it. Okay. The kind of attitude, the kind of mental attitude that we want to take is to simply, and I write it nice and big, enjoy learning. Okay, learning. Oops. Gonna add the word studying. Okay, enjoy studying. Make it a fun thing to study. Okay, enjoy learning, studying, and enjoy, practicing. So there are certain things that we can practice, and the more we practice, the more we become efficient and well versed at it. Okay, we become good at it. Learning, that's learning. So there's a let's do it again. I'm trying to do this without coffee in the morning. Normally when I go to work, I take coffee. But I want to enjoy, just being natural and serene. So learning, Learning. So give me a few moments to wake up. Okay. Studying. I have to admit my handwriting is getting a little bit better these days.
I know it's getting very impressive. You are impressive with writing. I know it's just yeah. And it's not and me too, I'm still doing it's like going climb up the mountain, and you are more
Yeah, that's the thing.
balancing
We have a
now.
tendency to go up. In fact, in this knowledge, as we as we study it, we find that the knowledge can be very powerful. And with the such, so much power from the knowledge itself, it's a good idea to kind of, sometimes you even write it down a little bit because too powerful goes up, it could be a little too much. Anyways,
I
okay.
know what you mean by not no coffee.
Oh, and also Ron's writing also have improved, really good looking as well on the paper. Very impressed. Yes.
Okay, so thank you for your gift of compliment. Okay.
Yeah.
So enjoy learning, studying, practicing. Okay. Obviously, if we we actually take a serious effort to study and to practice, to pay attention, and I know all of you here are committed to paying attention. But for those of you who view this recording later, it is said that with this knowledge, even if you sleep, you will experience transformation. Okay. So you can just relax, enjoy. If you write things down, that'll be great. It'll help with the conscious part that you can share back later and refer it back later. But the material is actually designed to cause a shift in your perspective, shift in your paradigm, and sometimes, sleeping makes it the best because it'll go straight into your subconscious part of the self, and it'll, you will experience new transformation without having to make a lot of effort. Okay. So enjoy learning, studying, practicing. Okay. Just relax. And okay. So speaking of learning, and studying, we're gonna be sharing knowledge, because officially this is a knowledge sharing session. Okay, I'm not gonna take the role of a teacher. I don't mean to teach anybody. All I have is some knowledge that I would like to share with other people. Okay, when it comes to knowledge, the knowledge that we know, the knowledge that we have come across, there are two types of knowledge. We are going to there's two types of knowledge. There is the kind of stuff that we learn, or knowledge that we gain from school that we go to, right? We go to high school, we go to elementary school, some of us go to college, some of us go and get a higher degree, or when we go to get a job and we get a new certificate. Okay, any kind of knowledge that we have been encountered up to now is mostly information. Okay, informative knowledge. Informative knowledge, that's what we've been doing. We gain information, and the more information we gain, the more knowledge we have, the more able we are to, how do I say, survive in this world and even get ahead. But the kind of knowledge that we're going to be sharing here is not so much informative knowledge. Yes, I'm going to give you some information. Some of them may be new information, but actually not too much information. The kind of knowledge that we are sharing here is called transformative knowledge. Transformative knowledge. Okay, transformative knowledge. That's an oath. So just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, we don't have to learn too many things. In fact, there's only a handful of words, a concept that we're going to be learning. And in this 12-hour times 2 days, we're really only going to be learning 3 words or 3 phrases. Okay, 3 standard reference system that will help us transform our life. It is transformative knowledge. Okay, so you kind of get an idea. The idea is to walk out of this session being transformed, being different than who we were before. Okay, famous peacemaker in the world, Mahatma Gandhi says, to how is it? Be the change that you want to see in the world, right? If we want to make change to other people, we want to make change to the world, be the change. That is transformation. Be the change from within. And so the kind of knowledge that we're going to be sharing and discussing today is intended to change, literally change. So if a person is ready for change, yeah, this is the right place that you're in. And I have a feeling that all of us here, if you can find yourself here in the first place, then you have at least have the intention or have made the commitment to making some kind of change within yourself. Okay, transformative knowledge. Okay, so moving on with knowledge in general. Okay, in general, a different way of speaking about knowledge. All the knowledge that we ever encounter in the world, instead of being complicated, there really is only 3 areas, or we can break the knowledge into 3 perspectives of view. Okay, all of the knowledge that we encounter can be broken up into a perspective called the worldly view. Okay, this is this view. Okay, a lot of us, the knowledge that we have come across in school from that we go to, it's mostly worldly perspective, physical world perspective. Okay, we learn math, we learn how to read, we learn how to write, we learn science. Those are consider worldly perspective knowledge. And then there are the kind of knowledge that deals with the great things, like where does the universe come from? Okay, where do we go when we die? Those are considered the cosmological view. Okay, cosmological view. It is a branch of knowledge that deals with both physics and metaphysics, and often religion will try to answer. Great big question, right? Where does the entire universe come from? Where do we come? Where do we go when we die? What's the purpose of life here? Great big question, right? Nowadays, even scientists is trying to search for the fundamental particle that answer all the questions in life. Okay, things like God, things like existence, things like the existence of the soul, life, and things like that. Those are considered cosmological perspective when it comes to knowledge. With worldly view or worldly perspective, we learn that in school. We learn that from scientists, engineers. Cosmological, usually we get that from the science and religion. Okay, and then there is another set of knowledge that we encounter all the time that affects our life, but we may not have noticed, and it is called the simply human life and experience. Okay, experience, human life and experience. Okay, we're human beings, we're alive. Would it be interested to know, to understand more about human life and experience? And if we can come to a complete understanding of human life and experience, take ownership of it, have mastery of it, then you can imagine what kind of life that would be like, right? Okay. It is through the studying of human life and experience that we will experience transformation. Okay, so this process, this knowledge sharing, this journey that we are on together is focused on expanding our awareness and perception about human life and experience. Okay. All right. When we interact with each other, that is a human experience. Okay. All right. So to begin, to get the best out of human life and experience, let's begin by drawing a picture together. Okay, and you are welcome. I encourage you to draw with me. I'm going to draw a boat. Okay, a boat. A Vietnamese boat in honor of the knowledge that came from the country of Vietnam through thousands of years and have been accumulated and now simply packaged in a way that we could understand and learn in a short period of amount of time. There's a promise that when we go through this process of learning and sharing, we will have come to a full grasp and mastery over human life and experience. That is quite a bold statement, huh? To have full mastery over human life and experience. In other words, if you commit to this process, you will come to have a complete understanding of human life and experience and take ownership of it. Okay. Anyway, so draw with me a picture of a boat. Okay. We're gonna label it boat. Should always label it in case people can't recognize it. It's a boat. Okay. Now imagine. Let's draw some water. Obviously, the boat is gonna be floating on a river. It's got some water. It's got a current. Okay, the boat is on a river, and this river is going from point A to point B. Okay, you can imagine that the river is going from point A to point B. Okay. Okay, this is the current. We can call it the current. Okay, so the river has a current. The current goes from point A to point B. Now you can imagine if the boat just floated along the river going with the current, would it be a simple matter to go from point A to point B? Right? Yeah, it's a simple matter to go from point A to point B if the boat just float with the current. Okay. Not only that, let's put a human being on it. And let's use orange. Okay, if a human being was to put a little effort and row this boat, let's give him a conical hat. Okay, if the human being was to row the boat along the direction of the current, then you can imagine the boat is going to go from A to B fairly quickly, right? Faster than before. And if you can put a motor on it, an engine, all right, put power in it, then you can go from A to B very quickly if you go with the current. Of course, there is the opposite scenario. Okay. What happens if we go against the current? Okay, if we go against the current, what would happen? Well, if we make a lot of effort, we can go against the current. Right? You can go against the effort. We can commit personal effort. We can even put a motor on it. Put resources into going against the current. And yes, we can sometimes go against the current, but it comes with a cost. We pay the price with effort, with resources. And what happened if we stop making the effort? What happened if we stop making the effort? We simply go backward. Okay, we just go back to where we were before. Okay, or even drift further back. If we try to go against the current, we have to either pay the price of effort and resources, or we go backward. And so the current here represents the things that governs all of our lives. Okay, the current represents, let's use, since it's a current and it's blue, so let's use blue. Universal principle. Principle, put it. Principles, okay, and natural law. And the both represent our lives. If we allow our lives to float along the current, to align with universal principles and natural laws, then we're going to get to where we want pretty fast. Even if we don't do anything, we'll get where we want pretty fast. Obviously, if we put a little more effort, commit a little bit more resources, like put a motor on it, okay? Use technology. And as long as we align it with the flow of the current, which is representing universal principles and natural laws, then we're going to get to where we want pretty simply, pretty fast. But if we go against it, if we go against universal principles and natural laws, then we get to pay the price, time, effort, sometimes even suffering. And if it's the moment that we stop effort, we go backward. We lose what we have gained. Okay. So So yeah, okay. So in order to sort of get the best out of life, okay, there is a yeah, you got these pictures already, right? There is a certain principle, okay? Certain principle, certain law that govern human life. And for the next one, let's draw another picture. Draw a small person, okay? This person is sitting inside a shell, a cocoon, with a lot of shells around it, hard shells around it. Okay, so that represent a person inside a cocoon. Got a heavy set of shell around it. These different colors. Okay, so let's do one more color. Okay, now, if this person is sitting inside this shell or this cocoon, the goal or the destination, okay, the destination that we want to get to is to break out of this shell, okay, become a bigger person, big arm, big legs, okay, big eyes to see, big mouth to speak, big belly, even some hair and feather, okay. The process to go from inside the shell to become a bigger person is called transformation. Okay, transformation. As human being, we grow, we mature. That is a process of transformation. Now, typically, each of us have gone through stages in our life where we experience a change in our life, a transformation, okay? Not only in a physical sense, but in a mental and emotional and a spiritual sense. For the most part, do you notice that we change or we transform after we experience some kind of challenges or after we experience some kind of pain or suffering, right? If some pain and suffering doesn't cause us to change, then bigger pain and suffering will tend to force us to change. Just kind of look at your own life. Okay? And if bigger pain and suffering doesn't force us to change, there may be some losses that will force us to change. Some people lose financial resources. Some people lose their health. Some people lose their relationship, and that forces them to change. Some people lose people or body parts. So great losses force us to change. But what if we could change without having to pay those prices, those pain and suffering? So paying the price, suffering, losses and pain and all that stuff, it's like going against the current. The destination is growth and maturity. We have all become, bigger and more mature people now as a result of the changes that have taken place. But if we don't pay attention to the current, if we don't pay attention to the natural laws and the universal principle, then we often have to pay the price of pain and suffering in order to change. Right? Does anybody want to comment anything about that? Any life experience that had forced you to change as a result of pain and suffering or great losses? Anybody want to comment on this part? What about loss? Would you like to say something, Ji Hua?
Oh, the loss of separation, the pain about the health as well. When the reason I joined to get to know this, which is I'm very grateful, is about my health was challenged. So when I went to all kinds sorts and find out and stuff, so I finally came to this. A friend referred me to the recording from a master, and then so that I have no choice and go into finding out for transformation here. Yes, that's it's challenged. It was challenged. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is oftentimes the pain and the suffering, okay, loss of limbs or loss of loved ones that force us to think differently, behave differently, and become a different person. And it is a process of transformation. But that pain and suffering is the price that we pay because we have not recognized the flow of natural laws and universal principle. So what is the best way to experience growth and for transformation without having to pay the price? It is simply love. Okay? Love for ourselves, love for our family members, love for our organization and society. It is the power of love that can cause a person to transform without paying heavy prices of loss, heavy prices. Okay? Is it not through love that we seek out more financial resource to feed our family for our children, right? Before I was single, I didn't care about money. I didn't care about having a home. But when I, got married and we started having my first son, then I started, I gotta take my life seriously. I have to get a job. I have to bring in income. That is a natural part of transformation. It made me become a more financially responsible person, and I didn't have to experience any pain and loss for it. Okay, that is just one small example. When a person experiences love for themselves and for other people, that initiate the process of transformation. Okay, and so if you are here already in this journey today, then you can begin by thanking yourself for loving yourself, to want to transform, to want to grow and mature, and then become a bigger and better person. Okay, yeah. So we're gonna ride on that energy of honoring ourselves and gratitude for ourselves. And at the same time, we can honor all the people and all the circumstances have given us the opportunity to be here today. Okay, it is their love that we have this time to be here on the Zoom instead of having to do whatever else. My wife, for instance, out of love, made me breakfast. Okay, so thanks to her, I get to prepare for the Zoom without having to spend time making breakfast. Okay. Yeah, it is the love that represent the universal laws and universal principles and natural law that carry us from point A to point B without us having to pay the extreme price of pain and suffering. Okay, so, and in order, with the energy of love, okay, in order to break out of this shell, okay, we all have this shell that is very thick. Hello, Mr. Min, how are you? Thank you for joining our Zoom.
Yes, thank you for asking, Mr. Frank Vuong.
All righty.
I'm doing fantastic.
Awesome. Okay, Jonah, we're just getting started. Okay, grateful for your participation. So we'll just jump right in. Okay, so in order for this little person to break out, and these, of this shell, okay, the effort it we're trying to do is we're going to break out of this shell. Okay. And breaking out and growing up and maturing, that is also a process of, transformation. Okay. In order to break out of these shells, we have to kind of recognize what these shells are. And the sages have taught us that these shells are, one of the layer is called self-trivialization. Self-trivialization. Okay. Have you ever in any time in your life just feel like I'm just ordinary? I'm trivial. I'm not really anything special. And therefore, I don't need to make any effort. I don't need to try. I don't need to reach for anything. And even if I want to reach for something, I'm not good enough. Okay, self-trivialization is that I'm not good enough. And because the awareness of I'm not good enough, I don't try. Okay, self-trivialization is one of the barriers, we call them barriers, to transformation, the barrier to growth. Okay? Maturity and growth has to do with our ability to see ourselves as bigger than who we are. But if we trivialize ourselves, then yes, sir, Mr. Quang Minh, the tầm thường hóa bản thân is the self-trivialization. Okay, trivial means, tầm thường is just trivial. Ization in the English language, when you realization, it is the process of doing something. Another barrier that prevent us from breaking out of the shell is here's a big one that we often encounter. It is the fear of failure. Okay. Usually when we fail, we experience some pain and loss. But it is the fear of failure that prevent us from trying it in the first place. And if we don't try, then we will never grow. Okay. Some of us in the past may have tried and failed. And the pain of failure causes us to fear, so we never try again. And as we go through this process, we will discover that oftentimes failure will take place because we are not going along the line of universal principles and natural law. If we go with the flow, we will not fail. We will succeed. But we only fail when somewhere along the line we have actually gone against the flow. Okay, when you go against the flow, we will encounter negativity, we will encounter undesired circumstances, we will encounter failure. And so the failure could be in the form of some pain or losses, and so we fear it, and so we never try again, so we stay small inside the shell. Okay. Another barrier that is preventing our growth and development is fear of criticism. Okay. Maybe we haven't even failed yet. Maybe he haven't even started any project yet, but somebody, usually a loved one, somebody we trust, criticize us. They say, you're not good enough. You're gonna fail. That's a bad idea. They reject us. And so it is that rejection, that fear of criticism, fear of looking bad in front of other people. And later on, we will learn what part of the human nature initiate this fear of criticism. It has to do with our nature of identity, our sense of ego identity. Okay. But yeah, it is a fear of criticism that prevent us from trying, from doing anything that is bigger than what we are already doing, keeps us trivial, prevent us from growing and maturing. Okay. How about another one? It is a, let's use another color. This one. Okay. It is the perception of lack of condition. Okay. Lack of condition. I don't have enough money, so I can't invest. I don't have enough time, so I cannot study. I don't know anybody, so I cannot go to that, that social gathering. Okay, I don't have enough, whatever, health in order to run, right? In order to exercise, I don't have enough energy to exercise, and therefore I don't exercise, and therefore I don't have energy to exercise. Okay, it is not a lack of condition that prevents us from achieving what we really want in life of health, life of happiness, peace, but it's the perception of lack of condition. There are people who are born without arms and legs. People who are born without eyes and ears, yet somehow they can achieve greater success than most of us, normal people. They do not have the perception of lack of condition. Okay. Yeah, it is our perception of lack of condition that is preventing us from transforming, preventing us from maturing, and essentially it is preventing us from fully expressing love. Okay, how about another one? Number 5. Our lack of knowledge. Okay, our lack of knowledge. We don't know. We don't know enough. I want to have a business, but I don't know anything about business, and so I don't try. Okay. It is that also is a perception. Okay, it has to do with the perception of lack of knowledge, and because you perceive that you don't have enough knowledge, you just don't try. We don't make an effort. We don't push out of our comfort zone, and thereby we don't grow. Okay. And the last one, very big one, and I'm going to use number 6. Lack of future vision. Lack of future vision is the biggest barrier to personal development. If we're sitting inside the shell and we cannot see ourselves looking bigger than where we are today, then we will never try. We will never make an effort to get out of this shell. If tomorrow looks the same as today, then we're not going to do anything different to make it look different. If next month, next week, next year looks about the same as today, then we lack future vision. We don't see ourselves and we don't see our life as anything different. All we see is where we are now. And if our life is full of, let's say, darkness right now, and all we see is the darkness, we're not going to make an effort to bring in the light. And all of these 6 barriers to personal growth and development is called self-limiting self-awareness. Okay. Some teaching, especially in the West, we may have heard of the phrase limiting belief. Okay? Limiting beliefs can be one of these are, part of our awareness and perception. A belief is a part of our awareness and perception. We believe ourselves to be trivial. We believe that we will fail. We believe that people will criticize us. Okay, we believe that we don't have lack of condition, or that we lack condition. We believe that we don't have enough knowledge. We don't believe that the future is going to look any different than today. Okay, limiting belief. Here, I want to call your attention to awareness. And we have a certain awareness. These are awareness about ourselves that are limiting ourselves. And therefore, it is self-limiting self-awareness. Okay, or limiting awareness. And in this sharing, the purpose of this sharing, that what we're doing today in the next 12 hours and then tomorrow another 12 hours, is simply to remove these barriers. Okay, we're going to remove this self-limiting self-awareness. And you can imagine that our life is like a rocket ship that has a lot of fuel, a lot of potential to fly out into space. Okay, imagine that our life is like a rocket ship that has the potential to fly out into space very far, very fast. But this rocket ship is being held by 6 chains, 6 of these self-limiting self-awareness, 6 chains. And no matter how much effort you put in, as long as you have these self-limiting self-awareness, the rocket ship cannot fly out in space, even if you put in a lot of effort. And many of us has, you notice, we may have spent years making effort. It's not that we haven't tried, but we have been doing it, but we're not getting any result. But the moment that we can remove these 6 barriers, then it's like cutting 6 of those chains that's holding the rocket ship down, and the rocket ship can fly out into space very far, very fast. And we do that by discovering what are some of the universal principles and natural law that are governing us, and we align ourselves with it. We align ourselves with universal principles and natural law, and we are going to get where we want very quickly, very efficiently, with minimal pain and loss. When breaking out of the shell, require a little bit of effort. Okay, there may be some discomfort, but it's not the kind of pain and loss that we suffer that is terrible, that comes as the result of the price that we pay for failing or for not going along with the natural laws and universal principle. In fact, the price that we pay for going against the universal principles and natural law, it's kind of like breaking out of this shell, but instead of bringing out of the shell, allowing this shell to be broken from the outside in. Okay, so imagine the shell like a chicken egg. If the egg is broken from the outside in, imagine it, okay? What happened when the egg is broken from the outside in? What do we do in the morning if we're hungry? We pick up the egg, we break it from the outside in. What do we do? We're making food. Okay, that egg is food for society. Okay, just kind of think back in our own lives. Is it not the case that societal pressure, external pressure, force us to change? Something happened, could be at our job, could be in our relationship, something happened outside of us, force us to change, force us to get out of that zone, become a different person. We're essentially food for society when we allow external pressure to break the shell. We become more knowledgeable when we allow external forces. But if we were to break the shell from the inside out, from the inside out, that is a little baby chick growing out of its shell. Yeah, baby chick growing out of its shell, and that is growth. That is life, new growth. That is the only way for the baby chick to become a full grown chicken. Another analogy, another mental image that I would like to share with you is the idea of a cocoon. Okay, or the idea of a caterpillar. First of all, remember we talked about transformative knowledge versus informative knowledge. A caterpillar, what happened to a caterpillar when it eats? A caterpillar eats leaves and it keeps on eating. Every time it eats, it gets bigger and bigger. When we accumulate informative knowledge, we get bigger. We become more knowledgeable. We have more skills. But that is just the caterpillar eating the leaves and becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. You get a bigger caterpillar. That's just informative knowledge. We go to school, we gain more skills. We take a new license. All that does is expand our circle of knowledge, and that caterpillar just get bigger. But it is only when the caterpillar goes into a cocoon to some metamorphosis process that when the caterpillar comes out of the cocoon, that it transforms into a butterfly. Right? The process of transformation is different than the process of just accumulating information. You just get caterpillar gets bigger and fatter, but it doesn't become a butterfly until there is a special process by which the caterpillar goes into a cocoon and then break out of that cocoon and becomes a butterfly. Now, with the idea of the caterpillar and the butterfly, there's a story. So one day, there's a little boy. Little boy is observing this cocoon, and inside of cocoon, there's this caterpillar who has already beginning to break out of it. Okay, so he sees this cocoon is starting to move. He sees the butterfly trying to break through. Okay, it is a process of transformation. You see the butterfly trying to break through, and it's struggling and breaking through. It taking some time, and he was watching and watching the butterfly trying to break through out of the cocoon. And while he's watching, his mother called him to dinner. Okay, time to go in for dinner. No more watching the butterfly. And so what the boy does is that he wants to accelerate the breaking out of the cocoon. So he takes the scissors and he snipped open the shell of the cocoon. Essentially, he helped the butterfly get out of the cocoon. And as a result, the butterfly was able to get out of the cocoon. However, instead of having a fully grown wings that will fly away, this butterfly has a tiny pair of wings and a big plump body. It has not gone through the full process of transformation by self-effort. It is external pressure, the boy helping the cocoon, the butterfly get out of the shell. And as a result, the butterfly spends the rest of its life just crawling around, never flying away, and a bird comes in and eat him. So that is what happened when we take a shortcut in the process of transformation and we allow people to help us without understanding that we need to break out of the shell on our own. Okay, that's an point I wanted to make in this season of sharing that I did not make before, is that it is the self-effort of transformation initiated by our love for ourselves that will force us out of this shell, this breakthrough process. Okay, because from a physiological perspective, when the butterfly struggles, it pushes the blood which pushes the wings out and it expands. And that is a physical process from a worldly view perspective. But it's the same thing from medical physics, from a medical perspective or human experience perspective. It is only through our self-effort that we can grow and transform. Of course, other people can help create the condition that will make it more simple in a short amount of time instead of you having to pay the price of pain and suffering. Okay. Okay. So let's move on. Any impression about this part of the sharing so far about the self-limiting self-awareness? So instead of letting pain and suffering force us to change, let us change out of love for ourselves, okay? Okay. Next, let's talk about an important principle. So instead, excuse me. Okay. So pain and suffering often arrive as a result of us trying to go against universal principles and natural law. We're making effort. Yes, we're making effort, but we're making effort going against the current. If only we allow ourselves to go with the flow, to align ourselves with universal principles and natural law, will we get to where we want in a simple and effective way without having to pay the great price of pain and suffering and losses, okay? And so one of those principles, let's see. Okay, one of those principles is called principle of light. Okay, you can write that down. In illustrating the principle of light, you can draw with me a black rectangle or dark color rectangle. We'll label it dark room. Okay, this rectangle represents a dark room. So the question is simple. What's the best way to brighten up this room? Can somebody give me an answer? What's the simplest way to brighten up the room?
Bring in the light
Bring in the light. How do you do that?
by turning it on.
Turn on the switch, okay? Open the window, light a candle, okay? Bring in the light, okay? My 3-year-old son, my son, when he was 3 years old, he already knew how to bring the light into the room, okay? He just flipped the switch, okay? In fact, my son's first word was light, a Vietnamese word. I was carrying him and he pointed to the light and I told him, Dan. And he got Dan. Okay. So my son's first word, not mama or daddy, it was light. Okay. The simplest way to brighten up a room is to, let's use, so bring in light. Okay, bring in the light. Now, when it comes to light and darkness, there is a duality. All right, it's simple duality. Wherever there is light, there is no darkness. Wherever there's darkness, not enough light. Wherever there's light, there is no darkness, and wherever there's darkness, not enough light. That is the duality. It seems to be something that very true about the world that we live in. So, on the one hand, the simplest way to brighten up the room is to bring in the light. But you can somehow rationalize that if we can somehow remove the darkness, okay, if we can somehow remove the darkness, then right, when there's no darkness, then there would be light, right? You can rationalize that, oh, because light and dark is the duality, then if we can somehow remove the darkness, then the room would brighten up. Okay, but you can see that not very realistic, is it? Right? You cannot remove the darkness and expect the room to brighten up. The only way to brighten up the room is to bring in the light. Okay, let's keep that idea in place for now, and then we're going to draw another picture. We'll apply that to the human life and experience. We're going to draw a house. Like that. We're going to label this house on the bottom inner being. Here we're going to call our health. On the right side, we call it our relationship. On our top is our finance. Okay. Now, when it comes to human life and experience, we tend to have a lot of problems. Everybody seems to have a lot of problems. Growing up, at work, at home, okay? We seem to have a lot of problems, and some people get drowned by a problem. But fortunately, in this philosophy, the great minds have showed us that really there isn't a lot of problem. You can simplify it. You can simplify all of life's problem into just 4 areas: your inner being, your health, your relationship, and your finance. Okay, all of life's problem can be categorized into 4 areas: your inner being, your relationship, your health, and your finance. In fact, if something is going on with your inner being, if you have a problem with your inner being, it will affect your health. If the inner being represent your, the stuff that goes inside of us, our mind, our emotion, our spirit. If our mind, our emotion, our spirit is in trouble, yeah, so does our health. It too will get in trouble. Our inner being, when it is in trouble, usually it will bring trouble to our relationship. The people in our family, in our work, will get affected. Right? Our inner being is going to affect our finance. Okay? A person who is, let's say, depressed for a very long time. Person who is very depressed for a long time is going to get sick. I work in the cardiology field, medical doctor's office. A person who experienced severe depression, let's say sadness when a spouse dies. Okay, a couple may be together for a very long time, and a person become very sad because the spouse died. That sadness, the inner being, that emotional, mental negativity will actually damage their heart. So they would actually experience heart failure. They would die of a broken heart. Okay, that is a medical diagnosis. It's not just a fancy term in the romantic novel. You can die of a broken heart as a result of being sad for a very long time. Of course, if you're happy, oh, then your health is also better. If you're a person who is at peace with yourself, who is very magnanimous and tolerant with other people, and you are very grateful for things, then guess what? Your physical health will get affected, will also be good. A person who has problem with the inner being. Maybe let's say they have a personality disorder, a sociopath, then that's going to affect the relationship. Nobody's going to want to be around a person who's depressed. Nobody's going to want to be around a person who is negative and angry, right? Affect the relationship. And if you have a negative perspective about money, or if you if you're depressed, you're not going to be able to go to work and make money. And your health and your finances are also related, right? I just said, if you're sick, for instance, if you're sick, you're going to have to call in sick. You're not going to be able to go to work or make money. So your health is affected by your finance, okay? Your relationship also affect finance. If a person has a lot of good relationship, that will bring in a lot of opportunity for work, a lot of opportunity for business. They can make a lot of money. Okay. On the other hand, a person who is isolated, have no relationship, who hates everybody and everybody hates them, then there will be no opportunity to make finance, to make money. And our health and our relationship is related. Okay. If we are healthy, we exercise, we interact with people, we go out, we enjoy, we have a lot of friends, and vice versa. People who have a lot of healthy relationship also become healthy. Okay, so they are interrelated. Health and relationship are interrelated. Okay. Our inner being and our finance is interrelated. If we have money and then suddenly we lose the money, okay, whatever happens, something happened, we lose money, immediately our inner being is going to be affected. Fear, worry, loss. Okay. Or the other way, with the positive aspect will be we win a lottery. Our money just goes up and then immediately we become very happy. Our inner being is affected by our finance. We came into an inheritance. Somebody give us a fortune. Our inner being is going to be very happy. Okay. And same thing between our health and our finance. People who have a lot of money, finance, they can use it to buy health. They can buy nutrition, buy good food, buy supplements, afford expensive doctors, go on expensive vacation. So our finance can buy good health. In fact, studies have shown that poor people who live in poverty also have poor health. Okay, they eat bad food, they drink bad water. And the health and our finance is interrelated. Okay, if you're sick or depressed, you cannot work. If you're healthy and happy and positive, then you can make a lot of money. And finance and relationship is interrelated as well. A person who has money, but immediately as soon as they lose the money, they will lose some friends too. Okay, some people. Or the relationship affect the finance. Now, some people, let's say they're in a marriage relationship, and if they lose the spouse through a divorce, for instance, then half of that finance will go away. So you can see how they're interrelated. Our health and our inner being is the same thing. Okay. If we exercise, if we eat right, we will be healthy. Our mind will be clear. Our emotion will be strong, will be good, positive, and vice versa. If our inner being is positive, it'll affect our health. So tying that to the idea of a dark room. Okay, we said earlier that the simplest way to brighten up the room is to bring the light in. The problems of our lives can be represented by the dark room. Some people may live in darkness with respect to their health. Some people may be living in darkness with respect to their relationship. Some people may be living in darkness with respect to their finance. And then whoever is living in darkness with their inner being will find themselves in darkness with their health, the finance, and their relationship as well. So the dark room represents the problems of our lives. And we have already simplified by saying there's only four areas to deal with. Pretty simple. If we want to solve the problem of any areas of life, just go to work on the inner being. Now, here's the problem with the problem, is that traditionally, we try to solve the problem by solving the problem. We are always going after problem. When we get sick, we go to the doctor and we expect the doctor to remove our illnesses. When a person finds themselves in credit card debt, oftentimes, they would open a new credit card, transfer the balance to solve the problem of the first credit card, but they are still in credit card debt. Some people have difficulty with their spouse. They get a new spouse. Well, what we have been doing is we've been trying to remove the darkness in this room. When we try to go after the problem directly, we are essentially trying to remove the darkness. And while we think it works, it may immediately look like it worked, right? We go to the doctor and the doctor gives us a pill or something and we get over the sickness, but then we get sick again and we have to go back to the doctor. Does each of us here have any friends who have to take medication on a regular basis? They have to refill every month and refill for years. Every time they refill, they take a medication. Yeah, they get a little bit better, removing the darkness, but wait, they're still living in darkness. They're still taking medication. Some people will shift their debt from one credit card to another, but they're still in debt. Okay, and that is because we keep on trying to remove the darkness. So relationship and inner being, I just want to draw another arrow to make sure that it's okay. But the principle of light basically say that yes, even though light and darkness are polar opposite, they have a duality. The only way to brighten up the room is to bring the light in. We cannot, as human beings, remove the darkness and expect the light to come on. We've been trying to do that, and it doesn't work. We've been trying to do that, and it doesn't work because we have been going against the principle of light. We have been going against the flow of universal law, universal principles, and natural law. Okay, so I hope that this little interaction will give you a sense of expand your awareness, elevate your awareness about what it means to fix the problem. So when in this philosophy, we're not going to try to fix the problem. What we're going to try to do is to bring the light into the room so that the problem will actually go away. That's the beauty of this methodology. The problem in our lives would actually go away when we learn how to bring the light into our lives instead of trying to fix the problem. This is an important point that I want to make. So I want to get some feedback on it. I want to get some impression on it, especially some new people. Morgan, are you still there? I don't know if she's still there. Okay.
No, I'm listening. I'm listening.
Okay. Well, did you get anything? Any impression?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. What are you feeling about it?
I was waiting for you, how you're going to represent, to bring the light to
okay, so how we're going to bring the light?
Problem,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we agree that we no longer want to focus on trying to fix problem, right? We're going to agree that we're no longer trying to remove the darkness. Now we're going to find out how to bring the light in. Okay, good question. So we're going to see if we can bring the light into this room. So if you have a pen or something, this is a very powerful picture that we're going to draw. So I invite you to draw with me. Okay. It's a good question. How do we bring the light into the room? Okay. Let's see what color let's use this time. Let's draw the house a lot bigger. Okay. So the roof almost to the top. Only about there. Okay. About that big. In the middle, we're going to draw a hexagon. 6-sided polygon. So 6-sided is going to connect to the corners and the walls like that. Okay. Okay. In the let's use, yeah, let's do this. Oh yeah, we still label it like before. Let's use this color. On the bottom is still our inner being. Okay, which is the stuff that goes on inside our human being. Our emotions, our mind, our spirit. On the left side, we're gonna write it in a vertical way because the word is really long, the English word. Okay, health, E-A-L-T-H, health. On the right side, we write relationship vertically, relation. Okay, relationship, into S. On the top is our finance. Okay. Now, in the middle here, in the bottom middle here, what we're gonna do is we're going to let's draw some candles first. Okay, so let's draw a candle. Since you say how we're gonna light up the room, let's draw some candles. And represent candle with a yellow flame. Can you see that? Yeah, nice candle. Okay. And each of these candle is represented by a word. The first candle we're going to light up in our house is the candle of wisdom. Okay. The next candle is our attitude. Okay. We're going to light up the candle of our character. Okay. We're going to light up the candle of our physical vitality. We're going to light the candle of our capability. We're going to connect all of them with integrity. And we are going to light up the candle of our material riches. Okay. You wanted to know how we bring light into the room. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to light up our wisdom, light up our attitude, our character, light up our capability, our physical vitality, connect all of them together with integrity, and then light up the candle of our material riches. Another way you can say is that we enrich our wisdom, enrich our attitude, enrich our character, enrich our capability, enrich our physical vitality, become whole, and become rich in material. And so this house is called the house of holistic health. Why? Healthy inner being, healthy body, healthy relationship, healthy finance, healthy emotional mind, spirit, healthy body, healthy relationship, healthy finance. Another way of saying that is a house of holistic wealth. Okay? To have a wealth of wisdom, the wealth of attitude, the wealth of character, the wealth of physical vitality, the wealth of capability, material wealth, and to be whole, perfect, and complete with integrity, bring it all together. Okay, the house of holistic health or house of holistic wealth. Okay, and this is still the principle of light. Okay, this is still the principle of light. So instead of solving the problems of our lives, we enrich or we light up the light. Okay, we have 7 holistic riches. Okay, these are the 7 candles of our 7 holistic riches, or 7 holistic wealth. Okay, we have the wealth of wisdom, attitude, character, integrity, capability, physical vitality, and material well-being. So let's take a look at the idea of wealth or riches, okay? And what it means to be holistically wealthy. Seven holistic wealth. Okay, 7 holistic wealth. Traditionally, when we think of wealth, traditionally, when we say a person is rich, that person is really rich. That person is really wealthy. Right? What do we think about when traditionally, when we first say somebody is rich, what do we think about? Is it not their material riches that we think about first? We see somebody driving a really expensive car, right? Lamborghini. Okay, not just Mercedes, we're talking Lamborghini, Ferrari, material possession. We see a person with a yacht, a boat, an airplane. We think of their material riches when we say that they are rich. Okay, they're very wealthy. Or a person owns a lot of land, okay, a lot of bank account. Material riches. But here's the thing. When the person, let's say, becomes sick and they have to spend a fortune to fix their body, right? And then we wonder, is it really rich? If you have material riches and you spend that rich to trying to fix your body, in other words, you have no health. Okay, if you don't have the health, which is the physical vitality, is it really rich? And so society, as we judge a person on their rich, we say, you know what? Not only is it enough to have money and a material possession, we also have to have physical health. in order to enjoy that. Okay, if you're sick and you have to spend money fixing your body, you're not going to be able to enjoy all the material riches that you have. That's just pretty simple, right? And then you look around, look at society, and we see people who do have material riches. We see people who have physical vitality. Let's say a lot of sports athlete stars, right? Super athlete, superstars, have a lot of money, a lot of physical health as well. But let's say they don't have the capability of keeping the wealth and the health. Do we not see super athlete, superstars losing their fortune overnight? Right? Overnight, they just lose the fortune. They made bad investment, they squander it. They don't have the capability to manage the money. Okay. Then we wonder if it is worth being materially rich and physically rich if you don't have the capability of maintaining it. So we call into question the idea of richness when you don't have the capability of maintaining your health and your wealth. And then a person who, I'm going to leave it space in here, okay? So make sure notice that I will leave space. If a person, let's say they have the capability of making a lot of money, they have physical health, they have material well-being, okay? But they get on the internet and they say something, that they just express something and it causes a scandal, right? It causes a scandal, and pretty soon people would, let's say an athlete would say something wrong and the sponsor would ditch them. Their fan base would ditch them. They would lose their material possession pretty fast as well. And so people in society start to call into question a person's character. Okay. If we have a lot of money, riches, even physical riches, we have a lot of ability to make money, right? But if we have poor character, if we are poor in character, then we can lose those money pretty fast. Okay. And where does the character come from? People judge a person's character from their attitude. If we're rich with money, but we have poor character or poor attitude, that doesn't seem to last very long either. Okay, a single word on the internet will cause a scandal and we will lose sponsor, we will lose our fan base, people lose the money. And what caused a person to have poor character? Well, it's simply because they lack wisdom. Okay. I leave a space here because I want to write the word integrity last. Okay. Integrity meaning integrate, to bring together. A person who has no integrity with respect to their material wealth, meaning they don't know how to keep the wealth together. A person who has no integrity with respect to the physical vitality, meaning they don't know how to keep their health together. A person who has no integrity with the capability, which means they don't have a solid ability to maintain their wealth. A person who has no integrity with respect to the character, the attitude, wisdom, meaning they don't know how to bring those together into a solid and complete. And these three areas, three candles in our holistic health, the bottom ones, are the ones that are material. These are more simple to see. Okay, more simple to recognize. Okay, yeah, I can totally see that person as rich when he has a car or a boat or a plane. I can tell when he's really healthy, physically vitality. Okay, the capability, the way they can bring in money, the way they influence other people. Right, capability could be their power and influence. Those are more physical in terms of a part of our human being, more material. The above ones are a little bit harder to see. They are intangible, and so we simply call them non-material. These are the non-material riches that a person has. One's integrity, one's character, attitude, and one's wisdom are the non-material aspect of a person. So we take a look at the picture again, and we're gonna compare them side by side if you can. Okay. If you notice, the material stuff is on top, with the material being on very top, the material possession, literally material possession, money, cars, house, buildings. Physical vitality, capability on top. The non-material stuff, right? The non-material stuff is our wisdom, our attitude, our character, tied all together by our integrity. And so, let's take a look at this house again. If you recall, okay, we're going to represent it with this, like this pattern here. Okay, our finance is the roof of the house. Right? Is anybody here experience or know a friend or anybody who have spent a lot of time or effort building their house from the roof down, building the finance, right? Work a lot, make a lot of money, can be very rich. But the moment that their health goes down, they didn't take care of their health, right? And guess what? They use the money to try to replace the health, and sometimes they can't. Okay, so the finances collapse when their health collapse. What about a person who spent a lot of money, a lot of time and effort making money, but they didn't take care of their relationship? Relationship with the fan base, relationship with the business partner, relationship with the spouse. In fact, a person gets divorced and immediately half of the finance goes away. That is what happened when the people spend time and effort working on the finance, building the house from the roof without taking care of their health and the relationship. The price we pay for going against universal principles and natural law. And what happened when a person's being, inner being, which is our emotion, our mind, our spirit collapse, then this whole house collapse. We have nothing else. Right? You know, people who experience nervous breakdown, right? People experience nervous breakdown, emotional collapse, mental breakdown, stress. In a job, in a work environment, in a business environment, you know, when a person undergoes stress, they cannot function anymore, and so the finance collapse. And so let's go back to that picture of material and non-material aspect of our lives. Okay, so instead of solving the problems of our life, what we want to do is just kind of go through our life and we light up the candle in each of this aspect of our lives. Okay, beginning with our wisdom. So how do we do that? Okay, so how do we do it in such a way? There is actually another sort of principle at work. Okay, it's more like a formula that help us light up all of these candles. Okay, we don't just do it all at once. We should do it. We don't do it one at a time. We do it all at once. Okay, and to do that, is a process called, let me see. Okay. Actually, let's go back to this one. Okay, so let's I want you to write this one down. Non-material, and then we have the material. Okay, and what you want to do is you draw a picture. I draw an arrow like that, and like that, and you draw the word IZE. And here we go, IZE. What we want to do is we want to non-materialize the material aspect of ourselves. We want to non-materialize the material aspect of ourselves. And then we want to materialize the non-material aspect of ourselves. Okay, let's start with the non-materialize the material aspect of ourselves. So these are the material aspect of ourselves. The material possession, our physical vitality, our capability. What does it mean to non-materialize something that is material? Our house, our boat, our car, our money, those are material stuff. How do we non-materialize them? Okay, how do you non-materialize the material aspect of ourselves? Well, the marketing world, the business world is very good at doing that. Okay, the marketing world always try to non-materialize a material in order to raise its value. Take, for example, a pair of shoes. Okay, a pair of shoes. There is a cost and a value to making the shoes, right? The leather cost, the labor cost, the material cost, the transportation and the marketing cost. And then the manufacturer will produce the shoes and will set a price that is appropriate for them to make a profit out of that actual cost to make the shoes. However, if they're really smart, they would hire a celebrity, let's say an athlete, a super athlete, and they will have that athlete wear this pair of shoes. And by virtue of the fact that a super athlete who already has a high value associated with him, now he associates with the pair of shoes, then the people who buy they will realize, oh, there's great value in this pair of shoes that is beyond the leather and the material. And so they can sell the pair of shoes at a much, much higher price. That is how the marketing world infuse the non-material element into a material item. Okay. Another way that the marketing world is very good at is to limit the edition. Let's say you want to buy a purse, and you go buy a fancy purse. It's got some brand name to it, but instead of producing 1 million purses, right? The manufacturer has the capability of mass producing 1 million purses, but instead they only produce, let's say, 500 purses. They limit the edition, and they advertise the limited edition as only available, 500 available for only 1 month. Then the people who buy them would think of this, oh wow, I have to buy it, I have to spend the money in order to get it before it runs out. And so the marketing world has been able to infuse the non-material element of scarcity into a purse that could easily be made, 1 million purses. Okay, that is an example of how the marketing world can infuse non-material value into a material object. How do we do that for ourselves? Well, each of us, let's say we're trying to get a job. And we get a job. We have a certain value in terms of our skills, our capability. Remember, our capability is considered one of the material. Okay, our capability. We have a license. Let's go. We go to school. We get a certain license. Okay, I went to school. I got a license for cardiovascular technology. I can perform. I have a skill that can perform EKG reading of people's electrical rhythm of their heart. That is my physical, that is my material value. But when I go to a job interview, I realize that, wait, 10,000 other applicants also have the exact same skill. How can you elevate your value as a human being above the other 10,000 applicants who also graduated from the same program across the United States with many schools? How can we get an edge on that? The only way to non-materialize the value is to show the people who hire me that I have better character, that I have greater attitude, that I have wisdom and integrity. I share with them the fact that whereas most people walk down the hallway, they see a piece of trash and they'll ignore it. But I pick up the trash and I like to keep the hallway clean. When a person interview an employee, they will ask questions that can show how a person will be able to deal with a situation, difficult people, for example. They will try to find their non-material value, because the material value is the stuff that you write on your resume or your CV. Right? Everybody's going to look the same. But when we go to a job interview, we have to set ourselves apart from the other applicant by showing that we have some non-material value. We have better attitude, we have better character, we have better integrity and wisdom. We know right and wrong. Okay, we know how to go above and beyond. And in the business world, it's called soft skills. Hard skills are the technical skill that we have trained. We get a certificate, we get a license. But the soft skills are the stuff that we don't get licensed for. But if we can show that, it put us above the other people. We have just non-materialized ourselves. Okay. If you're a parent, let's say you're a homemaker, okay, if you're a homemaker and you don't apply for a job and you don't go out to work and all you do is just take care of the family, how do you non-materialize yourself? Well, you can non-materialize yourself with, let's say, making dinner. If you take just a dinner and just calculate the value of dinner, that's just the ingredient, the amount of time you spend at the supermarket, the amount of time that you cook the food, and you just serve it on a dinner table, and that's it. That's the value, that's the material value of the dinner. But if you can, at the dinner, if you share the story of where the ingredient comes from, you share the fact that you've taken the time to choose, let's say, organic instead of processed, that you pick a certain supermarket over others because that supermarket is environmentally friendly, that when you cook the food, there is a story behind it, the origin of the food, the culture of the people. If you're cooking Italian food and you're telling the story of how lasagna and spaghetti and how pizza, for instance, here's a story about pizza. If all you do is just buy a pizza and give it to your family, that's just pizza. But if you just sell a little trivial, did you know that pizza originated in Italy as just a common leftover food from the kitchen? It is not a gourmet thing. In Italy, at the end of the day, when there's leftover food, mom would just throw everything together into a dough and put it in an oven, and we just eat leftover. Pizza came from leftover, but it became such a phenomenon. And now pizza is a wonderful gourmet, and people make all kinds of variety. That little story has just infused a non-material element into pizza. Same with cơm tấm. Vietnamese love cơm tấm. Cơm tấm is broken rice. Historically, rice is not as simple to produce as it is now with modern technology. In the old day, rice, when you through the process of making rice, some of the rice will be broken. It is considered low value to eat broken rice. Kings and queens and aristocrat, they expect the rice to be full grain. I mean, a bowl of rice of grain is full. That is a sign of perfection, a sign of wealth and health. The broken rice, they sell for a lower price to common people. But through time, the common people have taken the broken rice, they have popularized it. So everywhere, everybody has the common people eat broken rice. And now somebody decided to elevate that and bring it into restaurant setting. And so now when we go to a Vietnamese restaurant, we order broken rice. It is a gourmet. It is something fancy to actually eat broken rice. It is not a negative. It is not a low price thing. It is a gourmet. It is part of a dish that it becomes a traditional. It has a non-material cultural value that has been infused simply because culture has been, that's how culture has evolved. And a mother or a father who is a homemaker who wants to tell that story has just infused a little bit of non-material value into that dinner of broken rice. Okay, you don't have to go out there and get a job and be in a work environment to show your character and integrity. You can be a homemaker and elevate yourself by infusing non-material element, which is non-materializing the material value of broken rice. It is the story, the culture, the tradition, and the history behind a material object that gives it non-material value. Okay, and if we are as a person who go to work on enriching our character, our attitude, our wisdom, then we have essentially non-materializing ourselves, and we have essentially bringing light into our house. Later on, we will talk about attitude and wisdom. We will talk about how attitude will bring in, attract people into our lives. A person of great attitude, a person of great character, we will learn how a person of character is defined as a person of success. A person of character, when more than one person of character is together, it is an environment of success. And an environment of success where everybody is physically vital, if everybody has capability and they all have integrity, then that is an environment that attracts a lot of money. In this philosophy, we say that if you are holistically rich, in other words, if you're rich in wisdom, in attitude, in character, in integrity, physical vitality, and capability, if you are holistically rich, then it is impossible to be materially poor. Okay, so our health. Okay, we're going to learn that by enriching our wisdom and our attitude, and along with our physical vitality, we're going to experience great health. We're going to learn how in the school that we learned this philosophy and sharing it from. Okay, they are able to train senior citizens, 60, 70-year-old people with arthritis, right? Arthritis, pain, and the joint they can't move. We can actually train them through the process of enriching the wisdom, the attitude, the physical vitality in such a degree that those senior citizens can now run marathon. We will learn how the attitude of serenity, later on, inner peace, will enable a human being to do 10,000 squats. Physical health. We will learn how a person with wisdom, attitude, and character will be able to attract a lot of positive relationship in their life. And from those relationships, they can create businesses, create value for a lot of people, change the world. We don't try to solve the world's problem. We change the world by improving our wisdom, our attitude, our character. Okay? And we do that by non-materializing ourselves. I think that is an important point for us to kind of share some feedback. Anybody got an impression, any reality that you want to share in terms of non-materializing or ourselves? And to materialize the non-material, so earlier we just talked about non-materializing ourselves, right? We enrich our wisdom, our attitude, our character. Those are the non-material aspect. Okay, how do we materialize the non-material? How do we materialize wisdom, attitude, character, and integrity? Well, that's what I'm doing. I am packaging that in a form of knowledge sharing that I'm sharing with you, that I can actually give it to you in a form of a knowledge sharing Zoom session. It is a material form of knowledge, attitude, character, and wisdom. When we share it, when we discuss it, we make it real. We make it materialize. Okay. So yeah, let's get some sharing. Let's get some feedback. What are some question, some impression, any lesson that you learned so far? Anything new for the returning participant? Morgan?
Nothing in my mind,
Nothing in your
Frank.
mind just yet?
Only one thing. We cannot transfer those information to somebody else until we started from ourselves to learn very well, understand, and then practice. Before saying to somebody else or sharing this knowledge. I believe, by my experience, when transfer this information to somebody else, and in my mind I'm trying to help somebody, but it didn't work. And then I sit and analyze why all is correct that you're saying, but it's not gonna work with somebody else, not because they are not ready, because they are not seeing in you too. And he said, oh, if this one is work, why you don't want to do it yourself? That's why they're rejecting you. They don't want to accept it at the beginning. That's why I stopped to transfer, the knowledge that I get from you and then from the community, and start to working on myself deeply and practicing. And then my behavior, without any word from my mouth to say something to anybody, is start to affecting on others.
Yeah, that's actually very wonderful.
It means that's why I'm focusing to myself, not as a selfish person. Don't make it wrong.
Yeah.
As in me, we have to work on ourselves first. Then this energy, this attitude is gonna vibrate to the person is living with you, to the person in your neighbor, in your work area, and little by little. It means you don't need to watch yourself and behave all the time. Be yourself, but working on yourself and make a balance inside of you. That's why my experience.
Yeah.
Because I know you know me, but I'll try when I learn, this is in every human being. When you learn something new and it's work for you and you make you happy, you try, to transfer to everybody and share with everybody. And say, listen, I'll try this tool and it's working. Come on and join with me and learn, and then, be happy as I am. But people are not ready and they are not seeing in you. That's why they reject you. And at the beginning, I was upset. I said, well, I'm not saying anything wrong. Why, people, reacting like that, which is, that's true. That both. Now,
so that you're great. I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up.
You go ahead.
So if B is the destination. If the destination that we want is for someone else to understand something, right? We have a certain knowledge, and the destination that we want is there. But no matter how much effort that we've been putting in, we're not getting there. Then guess what? There is possible that there is some universal principle and natural law that we have not yet grasped. Right? Applying the knowledge from this session, just know that yes, we have a certain goal that we want to get to. We want to help the other person have a certain understanding, okay, maybe about their health, maybe about their life, their relationship, about peace and happiness. We have a goal that we want to get to. But we seem to put a lot of effort in. We row the boat, we put in the motor, we put in the time, and instead of getting to A, instead of getting to the point, we're going backward. We're not getting anywhere. Then at that moment, all we have to realize is that there are some universal principles and natural law that we have yet to discover. We have not recognized the current just yet. That's all it is. But I'm glad you're here in this time, in space, because that is already setting yourself on the right path. Go to work on yourself is one of the universal principle and natural law. Lighting up the candles in your house, okay? Wisdom, okay? We're gonna learn, we're gonna apply more knowledge, we're gonna get some wisdom, and that will help us with getting where we want. Eventually, when you learn about attitude and character, you will find that you'll be a lot more effective. Our integrity, our physical vitality, on all of that together, our capability, our ability to share with other people is also a capability that we're gonna brighten up. We don't need to solve the problem. We need to simply raise our awareness about ourselves, awareness about wisdom, attitude, character, integrity, physical vitality, and capability. So great sharing, Morgan. You are in the right space at the right time, and you are going at the right in the right direction. Okay. Thank you so much for that sharing. Okay, that I hope that is very helpful for other people. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to the darkness, here's the thing. Here's an idea. A word of wisdom. Okay, a word of wisdom. It's beautiful. With the principle of darkness, the principle of light, the duality between light and darkness. Here's an idea: is that doesn't matter how much darkness has been in this room for forever, how long. Okay, doesn't matter how long this room has been dark. All you need is one candle of light. This room could be dark for 1,000 years, but it doesn't take 1,000 years to drive away the darkness. You just need one candle. Okay, you might want to write that down. I think that's a words of wisdom that we should write down. Okay, words of wisdom. And let's see if I can phrase it in such a way. Even if darkness has existed for, let's say, 10,000 years, okay? When light arrives, it will instantly replace darkness. Okay, So I think from time to time, I will write words of wisdom that we kind of think about it. This gives us hope. Our lives may be in darkness for many, many years, but it's not going to take that same amount of years to bring the light back in. In fact, the moment that light appears, darkness will go away. Okay, that's what we're going to try to do. It's called enlightenment, okay, or awakening, okay? Small little enlightenment here and there. So we're going to we're going to work on lighting up our candle of wisdom, okay? Lighting up a candle of attitude and character, and we'll work up, work on the rest later. Okay? When we talk about things like human life and experience, that could include things like happiness, could include like inner peace, could include things like love and marriage. Okay, at the tomorrow we will talk about the reality triangle of happy marriage or harmonious marriage. Okay, these are the non-material aspects of our life, and we're going to use the principle of light into brighten up all of those aspects of our life. Okay, beginning with wisdom and attitude. So, principle of light. Okay, so while we're here, darknesses in our lives can be kind of, in terms of our how do you say, our attitude a little bit. There's a little bit about attitude. When a person experiences a lot of, let's say, resentment. Okay, when we have a lot of resentment in their life, they tend to attract a lot of negativity. When a person has a lot of anger, resentment comes with blame. Okay. When a person have a lot of anger, okay, they will also attract a lot of negativity in their life. When a person is very, how do you say, arrogant, okay, they can attract negativity in their life. When people have pain and suffering, those can be considered the darkness in their life. Okay. Here, we're going to brighten that up with, we're going to replace the darkness by lighting up the candle of honoring gratitude. This is a preview in the attitude section. Okay, so we'll learn about wisdom and we'll learn about attitude. Our inner being is the foundation of this house. We'll learn about attitude and wisdom, and one of the attitude is honoring gratitude. Okay, we'll go into details about how honoring and gratitude can drive away the darkness of resentment and blame. Okay, we will learn about how the state of being magnanimous or magnanimity, okay, to be great, to be generous, how that would drive away anger. We will learn how the character of humility will brighten up the room and replace the darkness of arrogance. And we will learn how to dispel suffering using the energy of serenity or inner peace. Okay? Still principle of light, but instead of trying to remove anger, how can you remove anger? Tell people don't be angry. How can you tell people don't be arrogant? Stop suffering? No, you can't stop suffering. But we apply the principle of light, not by fixing the problem or removing the darkness. We simply replace it with light. We bring honoring gratitude into our lives. We bring magnanimity into our heart. we bring humility, we bring serenity, and that will dispel all the negativity in our lives. Okay, does that make sense? You get a better understanding so far about the principle of light? Okay. So here's another example of the principle of light. Okay, so we're on the topic of principle of light. So let's say we are at the pool, okay, and a bunch of kids, and the kids are running really fast. The pool is around, the pool is wet, and the cement is really hard. What would you tell? Let's do a little interaction. Morgan, go ahead and turn on your microphone. Let's see if we can do this little interaction. Okay, Morgan, you still there? Anh Nguyễn Hoàng Hân, are you still there? Okay, they're off.
Yeah, yes, hi.
Okay, if you're at a pool, right? Traditionally, if you had a pool and the pool is wet, everything the ground is wet, and a bunch of little kids running around really fast. Before we learn this material, what do we typically say to people to tell the children when we see them running around really fast in a ground that is really wet?
I will say, be careful. Go slow, or you will fall and break your legs or something.
Yeah, yeah, you break your head. What about Morgan? Morgan, what would you typically say? When you see a bunch
The
of kids
same,
running around
just
wet ground?
yeah, just alarming, the sign of alarming, be careful if you don't know, how to swim, you have to be careful.
Yeah.
I'll try, to looking for my mute to open up. I muted. Sorry, I was late.
Okay. How about this? You see your children playing games on the phone, and they're holding it up to the eyes right now. Okay, you see a bunch of kids and you see they're holding up to the eyes, right? Okay. What would you tell them? What would you say? Do we not tell people?
Well, pull the phone away from your face or you'll go blind.
Yeah, put the phone away from your face so you go blind. Okay. What did we just do? What did we just do when we tell a child to pull the phone away from your face so that you go blind? Or we say, or and just say, go slowly, or you fall and break your head. What we have essentially done is we try to remove the darkness. And usually what happened is that a child will, okay, they'll listen to you, they'll pull it away, and then when you go away, they'll do it again. A little kid, they run around in the pool, that we usually say, don't run. We usually say, don't run, right? It is the first thing to come, don't run. And sure, you yell at them, they'll stop, but then again, you look away and they'll run again. That is because we have been focusing on removing the darkness. Okay, just think about that. When we tell a child, don't pull your phone away or you go blind, you're giving them the mental image, you're giving them the idea of darkness. Or when you're telling a child, don't run, essentially you're telling them to remove the darkness. But the appropriate way, if we want to align ourselves with the principle of light, the way to say that is to slow down and walk for safety. Walk for safety is bringing the light into the room. It has nothing to do with running or breaking or falling and breaking your head. But walk for safety is bringing a light in. And in a little bit, you will learn that when we implant a positive mental image, it is bringing the light in, and a human mind will react in such a way that will maintain the light. But if you tell somebody to don't run, you're essentially saying remove the darkness, and it doesn't work. Same thing with a child watching the phone up in the eye. If you tell them, put away from your face so that Otherwise, you go blind. What you're giving them, you're telling them a mixed message between the darkness and the bright and the light. It won't stick. But if you tell a child to keep the phone at arm's length so that you will have clear eyes, then we give them light. Clear eye is a positive message. Clear eye is the light that will brighten up the room. Okay, we'll get into detail in a little bit later.
It means you're trying to say to warning somebody to stay away of the dangerous or darkness, or
If you're
bring
warning,
a light, is we change, our attitude to send a message with a better, not as an order, to better way to people accept it.
let's do this. Let's do this. Let's see if we
Okay.
can get that. Good, good,
Okay.
good. Okay. Warning, first of all, warning somebody about the danger is removing the darkness. There's danger. You're focusing on the danger. So let's try this, okay? Let's try this. Whatever you do, don't think about a big elephant in this room. Whatever you do, don't think about a big elephant. Whatever you do, don't have an image of an elephant in your head. Did that work? Did that work? I told you don't. But as soon as I say don't think about a big elephant, the elephant come up. Okay. That's how the human mind works. That is how the principle of light works. That we spend so many years we're focusing on a negative, and we're telling ourselves, don't do this, don't do that. But we're all we're doing is trying to remove the darkness, and it doesn't really work. The moment I tell you don't think about a big elephant in a room, you have an image of a big elephant in the room. Okay, so how about this one? I want you to think about a juicy yellow lemon. Think about a juicy yellow lemon. It's melt in your mouth. You may even feel saliva coming out. Okay? So when I tell you to think about a juicy yellow lemon, we focus on a juicy yellow lemon. At that moment in time, did you think about, let's say, the bad politics that's going on in the world? At the moment in time when I asked you to think about a juicy yellow lemon that melts in your mouth, you had no conception of the bad politics in the world. But if that moment I said, how do we fix the politics in the world? Then all we have is nothing but bad politics in the world, in our mind. That is removing the darkness. So I simply, so let's say you go on a path, let's say you go on a road, and the road split into two paths. One path is danger, one path is safe. Removing the darkness would say, don't go that way, it's dangerous. Yeah, some people might listen, but the curious people might go the dangerous path. But instead, you don't even show the dangerous path, you just cover it up and you lead them, go this way. You only give them one possibility, and the possibility is the right way to go. That is bring in light into the room. Let's talk about health, okay? Since we are working on our health. Most of the time when I talk about health, let's see if we can do this practice. Anybody want to go back on the let me ask you.
I want to go back because that explanation is not satisfying me.
Okay.
For example, many people, a family, has a teenager, not a kid, teenager, adolescents, and or even older, and then that the drug is everywhere, right? And you know that how much is dangerous to involve, our young generation. I'm talking about young generation because we were involved when we were young too. Then how you gonna show the light to the new generation with not warning or how you gonna bring some example to communicate with the kid in the young generation. Hopefully, thanks to the God, my kid is not involved with this, because at the beginning I encouraged them, but many people around me I can see, and they cannot help. How are you gonna come with this one?
Okay, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the Say No to Drug campaign?
No, I didn't. But the example that
Okay,
you
that's
said,
fine.
see the
That's fine.
elephant, is not
But-
gonna work here. Is it work here? Just describe to me. I can't understand it.
That's fine. There is a
Okay.
Say No to Drug campaign for a long time. The United States
Mhm.
government and the education system spend millions and millions and millions of dollars teaching children about the bad effect of drug and to teach them to say no to drug. It doesn't work.
No, it
Same with
doesn't
our
work.
children,
Yeah.
same with our teenagers. Look at the traditional way that we have been treating and interacting with our children. Does it work? If it works, then we would have no problem, huh? The way
Correct.
we have been using it, we have been putting a lot of effort, rowing the boat, investing a lot of resources. Sometimes we feel that it's going from A to B, but the moment that we stop the effort, it goes back. It just it doesn't work. If it worked, then we have no problem. Life would be very simple. There would be no problem. As long as you tell your kid, don't do drugs, don't hang out with bad friends, and so we will have no problem. But the fact that we still have the problem, that means that whatever we have been doing isn't really working. So, in this philosophy, you have to be patient. We're going to learn to align ourselves with the universal principles and natural law. We're going to learn to bring the light into the room and thereby driving away darkness. I think we should have some experience, some people sharing of how this has affected their life. Jihua and Ron, do you have any reality that you want to share in being able to use the the principle of light?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for calling my name. For example, my son, he used to, he's 20 now, and back then he liked playing games. And it was a struggle how to tell him to stop. And I slowly, once I understand the bring light instead of remove the darkness, instead of me to tell him to stop, I redirect. Say, when you finish this game, will you please do this and do that, instead of concentrating and say stop the game. So that's more effective. Say, once you finish this game, will you come and do the dishes? And he'll say yes. For example, or will you vacuum after this, please? And so that works more effective than say stop the game and go and do the chores. Yeah, so that's it. It worked better for us.
Yeah, you replace a negative message with a positive message. You focusing on what you want instead of what we don't want. Okay, we'll get that. We'll get to that in a much deeper level, and so that when we go into the scientific reference system, okay, called the root cause of life. But yeah, so if you don't believe it just yet, it's fine. Just stay with it. Okay, you will find as we go through this process, it is a peeling back of the layer of the onion. When you have a greater source concept about the idea of principle of light, then your understanding and it'll be real for you. Okay.
Yes,
So,
Frank.
yeah,
Can I
thank you.
share that? I
Oh.
really like what you just share about the remove the darkness. Those are the simple ones that we're not even aware. That is a form of remove darkness. Yeah, I really like this examples. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Do you want to say anything, Ron? Employees and stuff like that, and you deal with this every day.
No, I have my son as well.
Okay.
He has a drinking problem,
Okay.
and I've tried to help him as much as I could, but he phones me and tells me, "Oh, I need some help. I don't know how to do it." And he does know how to do it. He's been explained. I try to tell him, "You do have help. You have help through different programs or whatever," and he doesn't seem to accept it.
Okay.
He's still stuck in the darkness.
Okay.
I try to bring him the light by explaining to him, you know, where you can get help and things like that, but
Okay.
he still keeps getting stuck in the darkness. I know it's a disease, but
Okay.
he needs to bring the light in himself. And I can try to help, but that's as far as I can go. And his mother passed away 4 years ago, and that kind of brought more darkness into his life. So I think that's where he's still struggling.
Okay. So I think this could be a process of transformation for yourself as well, Ron, right?
Mhm.
Working on it. This is an area of life. Your relationship with your son or your son's relationship with himself is something that we can work on. And we're going to use this methodology, this philosophy, and see if we can help ourselves, help our son, help each other bring in more light.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why I need more knowledge to help him.
Okay. Okay. In fact, the people who have drinking problem, and you're familiar with the Alcoholic Anonymous or the 12-step program and all of that, right?
Yes.
You have to understand the principle that makes that work. The principle that makes that work is not stop drinking. Right? You can't tell a person to stop drinking. You can't tell a person to stop smoking. You can't tell a person to stop playing game. I play game. I have an addiction problem. I play game.
Mhm.
But I realized that playing game is not the problem. Playing game is a manifestation of a deeper problem. And that deeper problem is usually the lack of love. Lack of love for the self, lack of love for the people around. Okay. So as we go through this process, we're going to enrich ourselves. Okay, we're going to express love for ourselves and express love for other people. And when we bring in the light into the room in terms of love, okay, that's how the people who are successful at the those the program, those Alcoholic Anonymous program, the 12-step program, they become successful not by somehow willfully stop drinking. It is only when they realize that they love themselves, that they deserve loving, that they bring in the light. It is the inner peace. It is the honoring and gratitude. It is the generosity and magnanimity toward themselves that will empower a person to change. Okay, so we get little tips, and as we reinforce those tips, the picture will be more clear to you, and so we will be able to we'll come out of this transformed. Okay, so and thank you very much, Ron, for sharing that personal story with us. Okay, before we take a break, let's go through one more principle, an important one. Okay, it's going to help us learn and retain information. Okay, because there's a lot of information. Oh yeah, earlier, okay, people who have addiction problem, some kind of resentment and blame, some kind of anger, okay, some form of suffering. We cannot tell them to stop being angry. We cannot tell them to stop suffering. That is removing the darkness. It doesn't work. But if we can show them how to honor and be grateful, how to be magnanimous, generous with themselves, and how to be serene, even arrogant people who are suffering addiction is experience a subtle form of egotistical arrogance. They refuse to let other people, teach them and lead them out of their darkness. So we can learn to teach them humility. They will lend you their hand and you can walk them out. Okay. But here's the thing, here's hope. Even if darkness exists for a thousand years, person could be drinking and addicted to gaming and gambling and other kinds of negativity for many, many years. When light arrives, it will instantly replace the darkness. So we just kind of begin to plant and light up tiny little candles all around the person's house. Okay. All right. So next principle before we take a little break. And I want you to apply the principle during the break. It is called the principle of since we're using the word principle, yes, this principle of mental activation. Okay, principle of mental activation. Before we talk about the principle of mental activation, let's talk about the darkness. Okay, we'll talk about a little bit about that darkness, and then we'll bring in the light. We won't try to remove the darkness, but we will bring in the light. This is called the curve of forgetting. This represents number of days. This represents, let's say, percent learning. Okay, I'm going to say something like this. As we go through any process of learning, we begin, the moment we begin, learning, somebody give us some knowledge, so we have just learned it, okay? And as we go through the day, we spend more time and we learn some more. Let's say after day one, we stop receiving new information, so the learning stop going up, so it reaches a peak, right? Reach a peak. But what happened is that after some days, we're gonna forget. We learn, we receive information, we receive a peak, and then after a certain number of days, let's say 7 days, by the end of 7 days or so, we forget most of the things that we've learned. That's a curve of forgetting. That is a natural human being. And that's actually a good thing. I mean, the human mind is designed to forget things that we don't need or don't use, to make room for new information, new knowledge. Okay. However, because of that natural tendency to forget, we don't retain all the information. And so the next day we had to come back and we had to learn again. So we wasted a lot of time and energy, essentially paddling against the flow. Okay. So we waste a lot of time and energy just learning and then relearning and relearning. This is the third season that I'm doing it. The class is taught in a 21-day series. But if we don't come in contact with the information again, what we're going to do is we're going to experience the curve of forgetting. We're going to forget everything that we've learned. So there is another principle that we can apply. There is another current. So instead of just letting us ride the current of forgetting, we're going to ride the current. Green is going to be the curve of remembering. Okay, the curve of remembering. So you learn, but instead of waiting a week, what we do, we just repeat the learning and repeat the learning. And repeat the learning. And after a while, it becomes permanent, and then you don't go to forgetting anymore. It becomes permanent. And so what we do is we ride this current and we retain information. Okay. How often, however many times that we allow this peak is how likely or how high the memory is gonna stick. So don't let the forgetting take over. Instead, stay in the remembering. We repeat, and repeat. And we do that all day long. Instead of waiting for a day, we do it all day long with this formula, or we're just going to call it a principle of mental activation. The principle of mental activation has a formula. It begins with the lesson that we've just learned. Okay, we've reviewed the lesson that we just learned. We just spent 2.5 hours. That's why I stop and I ask if you have any impression. Next one is the impression. Okay. Lesson is just the knowledge that we just come across. Okay. Impression is something that's deeper. Use a different color. Lesson is anything that's new. We want to review. Okay, what's new? Okay. That which I didn't know. Maybe principle of light is something that is brand new to me. Okay, that is new. Impression is something that we can find applicable. That I can use. Oh, okay. The principle, not only the principle of light is something that's new to me, but I can now apply it. That the next time a bunch of kids running around in the pool, instead of telling them to stop running, I will say, slow down and walk for safety. That instead of telling an addict to stop being addicted, I will help them discover honor and gratitude. I will help them learn to love themselves. That is principle of light. This is how we can apply the lesson. It is the applicability, that which makes an impression. Okay, lesson and impression. And then what really transform our lives is the realization. Okay, realization. A complete realization. Okay, it is answers. Answers to long sought inquiry. Okay. We may have been wondering, okay, how do I help this person? How do I help this person? How do I help this person? And through the interaction, through the contact with new lessons, we may find something applicable and useful. That is our impression. But more importantly, if you can find an aha moment, I have an answer now that I can use it forever. Okay. It is a realization is a transformation. Because the moment we realize something, our mind change, our thought change, our behavior change. We are no longer the same person. Everything that we do from that moment on is going to be different. It is the realization that we try to get at. We'll go into a little bit more details about this principle in a little bit as well. Okay, is it going to be next? Let's see, wait, I check. Yeah, we'll go in that one, but before that, let's take a little break, okay? Yeah, we'll give our mind a little rest. There's another principle at work that if you spend too much time learning things, with this knowledge, I was going to share with you the principle of diminishing return. Okay, when we learn informational knowledge, when we learn informative knowledge, if we keep on cramming knowledge, after a while, we'll actually forget a lot of stuff because you get full and it's like, mind gets tired. But with transformative knowledge, you don't experience the tiredness. Every time you experience a shift, it's permanent. So it's different than informative knowledge. That's why we can go through 24 hours, and Ron had spent 24 hours with me, and we don't get tired. We don't have a lot of information to cram into it. We just cause a little shift, little shift, and every time we shift, we actually raise ourselves to a higher energy level, and we keep on going. That's the beauty about transformative knowledge. Okay, we don't experience the negative return with too much learning. Okay. Anyway, in our break, in the next, let's say 5-10 minutes or something, let's do a 10-minute break. Let's see if we can come up. Okay, kind of review. Okay, what did I learn today? Anything new? Okay, you may have heard this many times, but anything new today of any of that which is applicable. And obviously, if it answer any long sought inquiry, you're going to share it back with us later. Okay. So it's 10 minutes. Yeah, question two?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something like in the lessons last night, time goes really fast as well. We start at midnight and finish at 2:30, but
yeah,
during the day, I'm thinking of things to say. My mind knows what I want to say, but when I go to say it, my mouth doesn't say the right thing. It's
okay,
not what I was thinking all day.
that's fine.
So,
So
yeah,
let's practice right now. Okay, we just went through the principle of light. What you have just said is a darkness. You have just stated a condition of darkness that my mouth doesn't want. How can we rephrase that using the principle of light? How can you rephrase that in your training? Can you do that? Let's see if we can do that. Turn that into an inquiry. If we don't have an answer yet, okay, then how can I say that? How can I, eventually express that what I want to say, right?
Yeah.
So you turn the inquiry, you turn it into an inquiry. When you have the inquiry, okay, how am I going to be able to express what I really want to say that connect with my mouth and my mind? Keep on asking that, and then eventually one day you will experience a realization. It will stick. It will become permanent.
What I need to do is write it down when the thoughts are there.
That is one way. Okay, so instead of focusing on the darkness, so instead of saying, "Oh man, I keep on forgetting," or "I can't," instead of focusing on "I can't," you want to ask the question of how can I? How I can instead of why I can't.
Yeah.
Nice. So a lot of lessons today, right? A lot of notes. Okay, 6 barriers, the current universals of principle law, views. Okay, so 3 different views. Okay, worldly views, cosmological view. We'll go into detail, but we're focusing on human experience, human life and experience, right? Memories. We talked about health. We talked about relationship. Okay, so it's gonna, take the time to review your note, and we'll go back. Let's come back in 12 minutes, 10 o'clock, okay? Okay, and be ready to share any lesson, any impression, any realization. Okay, see you guys in a bit.
Awesome, thank you. We're going for a walk now.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Thank you.